that being said, last week we worked on an acronym called SAMPLE, and it was with a conscious person that we could ask them questions and how we would react. Um, this week we're going to work on another acronym that is going to deal with an unconscious person. So a lot of these things that we're dealing with right now, we'll be talking about throughout the semester, how to handle the situations. Example is if we come onto an unconscious person, and of course we're going to have to know some things in reference to CPR, working with the defibrillator, and so let's look at this first acronym this week that we're going to talk about, and it's entitled Doctors ABCD. Okay, and when I say that, we're going to look at the first part of this acronym, the D, and the D stands for danger. So if you're in a situation where there's a car accident, there's electrical wires on the car, or the possibility of gasoline being spilled in combustion, you need to keep out of harm's way, and other individuals as well. Um, you don't want to put yourself in danger that you can't help at the scene. Um, then there could be a dangerous situation that you can address, that you need to have the other person protected, and a lot of times it might be just by um, getting somebody to keep people away, or if it was on a busy intersection or road, to have somebody to stop traffic, in a safe distance away. So that's the D on this acronym. Again, it's Doctors ABCD. So the R stands for response. Um, sometimes a person, believe it or not, if you're on a bicycle trail, you come over and you see the bicycle laying alongside the trail and the person laying down. It's rare, but I mean, they could be sleeping and could be taking a break. I mean, if it's a beautiful sunny day, sure. Um, but what we want to look at is the response, and we think about talk to the person, um, touch the person, just on the shoulder. Now, obviously, if they're in a situation where you can't, there's obstruction that you can't get to the person. Um, Obviously, the response, you're going to go to the next letter, which would be the S. But again, thinking of that response, it might be you just ask them to blink. That way, if they can listen or can hear. But then at the same time after that, you're going to go to the letter S in this acronym, and you're going to send for help. If there are people around, tell them to go immediately, or if you have a cell phone, to call 911, get an emergency squad or text, people there, EMTs, whomever. Hopefully, at the end of this unit, you'll be trained enough that you feel confident that you could handle this scene. So the next part of the acronym is A, B, C, D. And these are parts of this acronym that we're going to, again, work with throughout this semester. The first is airway. You're going to check if the airway is, if the person can breathe. A lot of times you can see the chest rising. In this situation, let's just pretend the person was alongside a bike path. You came up to them and they were laying alongside the road and they didn't respond with that R. You did have a cell phone, you called. Now you look at the airway. So you would want to look, listen, feel. When you do that, you would just look at the chest. You would take your ear and put it over the person's mouth as close as possible to hear, and also to feel. So you could hear breathing possibly. You could feel the breath being exchanged. So if you know the person's breathing, you may not have to go that the airway's open. And we'll learn how to open that airway. You'll see it. We'll be practicing that. We won't have artificial annies to work with, but you will be practicing that off some of the techniques we can use virtually. So we looked at the breathing next. And of course, if they weren't breathing, we know what our next action is. We didn't see the heart or chest rising. We didn't feel any air being exchanged. And we didn't feel any air being exchanged as well. So we're going to start with the C, and we start with the cardiopulmonary resuscitation. When we work on that cardiopulmonary resuscitation, a lot of you may already be certified or trained, and that's great. One of the greatest tools that you can utilize in a situation. Never be panicked that you're afraid to address CPR or anything we have talked about. The Good Samaritan Act protects you, and it's extremely rare. There haven't been any cases that I'm aware of through any research that I checked on cases in Pennsylvania where the Good Samaritan Act didn't stand up. So when you think about that CPR, and when we learn the technique, and we'll talk about the compressions and how many compressions per minute and how many breaths per minute. I'm not really concerned right now to talk through the CPR, because we will spend at least 2 weeks dealing with just cardiopulmonary resuscitation. And when we look at the last part of this, it's a defibrillator, the D. And, when you work with an AED, pretty simple. If you've been on campus at Stevens, when you go in a lot of the buildings, in the gymnasium, when you walk down the steps to the left, there's a defibrillator. But the defibrillator pretty much explains itself. But we will practice with that. We'll see that again virtually on how to handle that situation when you will utilize the defibrillator. Definitely go hand in hand with mouth-to-mouth, with cardiopulmonary resuscitation. And so that is what we looked at today with doctors ABCD as the acronym. What encompasses this whole thing with the acronym SAMPLE and with the acronym doctors ABCD, we call it basically check, call, care. Well, again, and you've heard this before, you're going to check the situation, that the scene is safe. You're going to check the person to the ability that you have established. And in most situations, you will have someone or yourself will call 911, get emergency technicians in as fast as possible, or whatever the scenario may call. And then the care scene part of it is what you have been trained. And, what this this semester will do, it's going to train you on how to handle bleeding, how to handle shock, how to handle various types of shock, how to handle, obviously, obstruction, airways, using the defibrillator, CPR, and that you feel confident coming out of this semester with those skills. I'm going to attach a very short video with this, and this is at about 8 minutes. You're going to have a short quiz. Again, it'll be coming off the portal. Always go to coursework, look, you'll see the video listed. The units will go in order, and I believe we're on Unit 4. When I say that's the third week, but Unit 4 in reference to the syllabus last week, and that you answered those first 5 questions, and of course the sample that you answered those 6. This week will be a number of questions coming off of this video, and I can tell you it's going to be simple answer, simple question, and it's that you feel confident with check, call, care, understanding that, and going to a person who is not conscious and being able to use the acronym danger, response, send for help, airway, breathing, CPR, and defibrillator. Wish everybody the best this week. Stay well. Again, Mr. Grove signing off, and take care.